now.
Welcome to Burnt Out. The Burnt Out podcast shares the stories of firefighters, emergency personnel, and other first responders around the world to create a pathway to save lives. The stories you will hear are real and may be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. And now I'd like to introduce you to your host for Burnt Out, a 33-year retired veteran of the fire department, Skip O.
And welcome to the Burnt Out podcast. My name is Shawn Neal, filling in for Skip O today. And there's a reason. I've got the other half, some might say the better half of the Skip O team here. I've got Mrs. O. Now, you just told me something before we hit the record button that I think we need to call Skip out on. So you are referred to sometimes as
Skip's wife, but I think it should be he is Diana's husband.
There you go. So we have Diane. Wait, I've got to think about that. So welcome to Burnout. Of course, if you want to check out all of the great sponsors that make this show possible, check out burntoutpodcast.org. They are all on there. They are all making a difference by supporting this effort and the worldwide peer support in all of the work they do to help first responders across the world. And I am so pleased to have you. We're going to dive deep today. We're going to talk about first of all, my goodness, how you put up with him. and we're just going to kind of crack this nut open and talk a little bit about, what it's like to be the spouse of a first responder and all of the, the things that go along with that. So first of all, let's get into a little bit of your history. So you have previously, now I think this was back in the 90s, but you were a dispatcher. Is that correct?
Yes, for 4 years, I was a police fire 911 dispatch.
Wow.
And I love that job. But at the time, we had 5 young children. And of course, it goes by seniority. And I worked second shift those 4 years. So I never really got to see the kids because they were at school while I was at home and in bed by the time I got home.
Sure.
So, but then they were going to move me to third shift, and they were too young to leave by themselves overnight. And with Skip being a firefighter, there were at least 3 nights a week that he was working 24-hour shifts. So I called City Hall to see if they had any openings because it was still a city job, and was able to transfer over to the utility office. So,
and you've been there ever since, right?
Right. So in September, I'll have 33 years total with the city.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. And so I literally just found this out that you and he married after 41 days. Is that right?
Yeah. It was a quick thing.
Wow. That is so cool. So he was a firefighter then when you met him?
Yes. I had already started working dispatch, and we actually kind of went out on with friends, mutual friend, and I met him that way. And we all 4 of us stayed out pretty late that night. And the next day he had to be at work at 7. I didn't have to be at work till 3 in the afternoon. So when I got to work, I called over at the fire station. I said, I was just checking to see if you made it to work this morning.
Oh,
and it went on from there.
Yeah, it's like that follow-up phone call when someone checks in to make sure you made it to work okay.
And I just happened to win tickets to a movie off a local radio station, and just happened to win tickets like the weekend before. So I told him about him. So we ended up going to that movie, Far and Away. Cool. And
that's so good. And the rest is history.
Yes.
Say.
Yep. Exactly.
Now there's a lot, I think, that, comes with the lifestyle of a first responder. Like you said, 3 and 4 nights being gone from home and whatnot. And of course the risk that's involved.
Right.
So let's, if we can, let's just kind of start there. And as the spouse of someone who is doing that type of work early on. When you stepped away from dispatch, and by the way, I think dispatch adds another layer to that because you had the chance to see kind of firsthand some of the craziness that he would walk into.
Right. You hear about a lot of it because you're on the phone, but you're not seeing it in person. But there were times that I would be sending him on a call, worried about what's going on, but still I had to answer the 911 calls for other people too, and sometimes as a dispatcher, you don't hear the back end of that call. So you're always wondering, when it was his call, sometimes he could come home and tell me about what ended up happening or something. But otherwise, you're just hearing one end of that situation and the rest of it's kind of left hanging sometimes. So, but
Yeah.
when I knew it was his call, I believe I was working dispatch when he got called to rescue somebody in a water tower. And I couldn't leave to go out there to be there with him. And knowing that he has a fear of heights, that was an
Oh,
interesting
wow.
thing.
Yeah.
But actually, later on, I joined the fire auxiliary, which is the spouses of firefighters. And we got to go to some of the fire calls and take dry socks or hot coffee in the winter or pop, water, things like that. And we got to be like right up with the firefighters. And that's when I really started having an appreciation for some of the stuff that he did.
Yeah. And it seems like, that appreciation also had to kind of open you up to all of the things that, that he must experience. And it's interesting because, you were talking about, uh, you know, sometimes he would share with you, but I'm sure that sometimes he wouldn't.
Right.
And was there a certain point when you noticed that, he was a little bit quieter than what maybe you had expected?
Well, there was a lot of times that probably the majority of the time, he didn't, he said, oh, we had a fire or, oh, there was a wreck or something. But that was about as far as it went. And I guess I was pretty naive about digging deeper and, well, how did that make you feel or something? I was not at that level, I was busy with my own life, taking care of 5 kids and things,
Right.
so I didn't take enough. I feel bad that I didn't recognize some of the symptoms that might have caused him. I mean, not that I could have stopped anything, but at least I would have known more about it, what was going on, and had a better idea of things.
Yeah.
When we first got together, um, I was so naive about alcoholism, even though I had previously been married to an alcoholic, but he was a functioning alcoholic. And then when I met Skip, he told me that he had been to treatment. And so now he could drink a wine cooler once in a while, and that was okay. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And later learned that the way you can tell an alcoholic's lying is because his mouth is moving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
So,
well, and as you're talking about that, I mean, you're kind of breaking this open a little bit because, Skip has often talked about on the podcast about the culture of, the first responder and, their job is to be tough and to,
mhm.
just internalize it and just move forward and do what they need to do. When you first realized that, this may be deeper than what you thought it was, how did you process that? What was your first reaction?
Well, honestly, I don't think I ever, for a long, long time, never associated the addictions with his job. I was more like the person that thought of a firefighter as a hero and doing a good job, and I never really thought about all the things that they saw and all the things that they were holding inside, that they dream about, have nightmares about, whatever. I just never thought of that side of it until years and years and years down the road. Actually, probably when he was about ready to retire and went to a treatment center, um, for like I think it was like 4 or 6 weeks that he was in that treatment center, And then I started learning more about it and realized that the two were very related.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've got this history. And of course we know, that substance use disorder and, mental health go hand in hand. And so they're oftentimes, um, suicides, and people, feel a very deep sense of being lost and just not knowing their purpose. Um, can you just kind of share a little bit about, as you started to discover these things about him throughout the years, just not, maybe not specific time, but just throughout the years, what were some of the things that helped you to help him to learn how to start to relate to what he was experiencing?
Well, in early 2000, I guess it was about 7 years after we were married, I finally was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, basically. And I hunted up an Al Anon meeting and started going to Al Anon. And I actually started Al Anon about a month before he found sobriety. And he didn't know I was going to Al Anon. And so I just kind of did that behind the scenes. But through Al Anon, I learned a lot about alcoholism and how they say it's cunning and baffling. And um, it just helped me a lot, and learned that it was not because of anything that I did or didn't do, that was all on him, that I couldn't make him stop. I couldn't make him better. He had to want to be better. And so that relieved me a lot. And I also had to learn that to take care of myself, and that somebody once explained it to me. It's like two, if you look down a railroad track and how they come together at the very end, and you hope that that's what happens, but that's not always what happens. You have to learn to take care of yourself. Hopefully, they find sobriety and things work out between you, but that doesn't always happen, and you have to be okay with that. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's rough. Did you find that when you were, attending Al-Anon, that you had those aha moments of people that were with you, that you suddenly can they relate to you. They get exactly what
Right.
you're talking about.
Right. It was comforting to be in a room full of people that had experienced some of the same feelings, because I didn't even recognize some of my feelings until I heard someone else express it. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And a lot of the reading material, I have a daily reader and things. And a lot of those readings are just like, that's exactly how I felt. I just didn't realize that that's what I was feeling. But that helped a lot. And sometimes it's sad to say, but sometimes you hear people in worse situations that you're in that makes you feel better about the situation that you're in.
Yeah, and I think to your point, there is, something to be said for having perspective on,
Right.
where we sit, and to know that, I'm like you. I've heard that phrase my whole life. It could always be worse. Um,
Yeah.
but with that being said, it does give perspective. It does give you the chance to step back and kind of say, okay, where am I at really in this, and then to
Right.
move forward.
Yeah. And what's my part in it? And
Oh,
what can I do?
that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I love the fact that, you two now, how many years of marriage? So
31 this
31.
year, next
Okay.
month.
And he's still alive and breathing, we know. So he's managed to do all right.
Yeah.
So in 31 years of marriage, and, going through this with him, I want to kind of, look at, because I know there are people out there right now who this story is ringing true to. They're like you, sitting in the Al-Anon meeting going, wait a minute, she's talking about my life.
Hmm.
Um, in that 31 years, let's kind of hit a little bit on some of the things that really have been key for you to be able to, go through these challenges with him. And let's start with something you said that was very important, which is, how do you know if an alcoholic's lying? And how do you navigate that? You know, the person I love, are they speaking the truth to me right now, or is it
Right.
the alcohol talking, or the addiction?
Right. Yeah. And it's it's really hard for me some days, because once they've burnt that trust, it's really hard to say that you completely 100% trust again,
Yeah,
because you feel like, am, am I being made a fool of? You know? And I struggle with that some days. But I trust. Sometimes I think I'm too trusting, but I do trust and totally believe that God's got a plan, and He's got me no matter what happens. And all I can do is be the best person that I feel I can be. And it's up to them, and it's up to Him to be the person that He thinks He should be.
yeah. Do you feel like through the process that you have developed healthy boundaries for that trust, a place to be able to say, I'll go to this place, but after that I'm putting the wall up and I'm saying stop for a minute?
Yeah, that's what I think in my mind all the time. That um, this is I'm okay up to here, and then if things change, then things will have to change.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that, and this, I mean, this goes for a lot of different areas
Right,
of life, but it's like you said, it's having a level of trust with somebody, but also knowing that, when you come up to a certain place, it becomes unhealthy for me as a person.
right,
And I have to respect myself and my own, humanness in order to stay healthy.
yeah. And I'm not good about putting myself first or taking care of myself first. I want this happy life. The what you Leave It to Beaver life or whatever. And I want that so bad that sometimes I have let things go that I shouldn't have. You know, but again, I trust that God's going to take care of me, and um, leave it up to Him to do the judgment. And
I think one of the things that I've learned in my experiences of getting to know Skip and getting to know others who have struggled with substance use disorder, um, is that, the imperfectness of being human is almost something that we, need to embrace. It's like there's this feeling that we have to find, like you said, perfection. We have to find that, that perfect place where we have the perfect life and everything's supposed to be as. But part of, I think, the beauty of being human is the fact that we are all broken, and our journey is about healing and turning that into positive things. Um, and I really want to start to move our conversation in that direction now of healing, and some of the things that you have
mm-hmm.
found, um, maybe, and this may be contradictory, maybe, endearing yet painful, something that has been able to really help you connect with each other and to move you into a space of healing, so that when the tough times come along, you're able to turn to that. What are there some things like that that you kind of think of when I'm talking about healing?
I personally have used the church and God for that, but also some of the relationships that we've formed, our friendships, people that have um, been a part of our lives, and have known the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything, and are still with us, and that's meant a lot to us.
Yeah. And I think because okay, now this is where we'll talk about him like he's really not here. I I watch, Skip do so many things for so many people. And I know that, there's a part of him that is just internally driven to to do those
Hmm.
things and to to really use the time he's given on earth to give back, because there is I'm sure a lot of time where he is now in reflection. He's wanting to give back and do things like that. um but I also see, just like the title of this podcast, that people reach a burnout point. People, and Skip,
Right.
I said on the back end as a producer of this, and sometimes I'm tapping him on the shoulder saying, Skip, take a break, don't take all that on. Let's step back.
Right.
I think we all need people in our life like that. Do you feel like that is maybe one of the blessings, is having, like you were talking about, your circle of friends, people who can kind of just say it like it is, and be real about how to talk to each other?
Yeah, I think that's good. I I feel guilty sometimes because I struggle with, okay, you're helping everybody else, but I can't get you down the dishwasher here for me. It's like, save some of that for me. but
Sure.
but I appreciate uh, what we've got to do with his all of his connections and the things that he's willing to do. He's started out kind of dragging me along because I've never been that kind of person, but now I love the things that we've been able to do and been able to experience, and it's always good to, see that smile, and you have that good feeling when you're able to help somebody.
Yeah. And one, I, full confession, I see you two on Facebook. And one of the things that always puts a smile on my face is how much he adores you.
Oh,
Um, and he does, because I see him lifting you up constantly in the words that he uses. And I see it on your face too. So it's a testament to that 31 years of, every morning he still wakes up without a pillow over his head. The true sign of a good marriage.
yeah. Yeah, we've been through a lot, but I feel like, it's made us stronger as a couple. And some of the things that we've been through, I think sometimes you go through those challenges so that you can help somebody else through it, so that you're there for somebody else.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I would love to kind of land this plane on exactly what you're talking about there, because at the end of the day, Skip always kind of ends these on a positive note,
Mhm.
and I'll lean in the direction that he goes with these questions, as we start to wrap it up here. So somewhere out there, and it may be a first responder, it may be a first responder spouse that's hearing your voice, and they're struggling, and they're in a position today where the words you're saying are ringing true, and they don't know what to do with that. What would you say to that person right now?
Well, it's not always easy. I know there's times that I have cried so much that I felt like there was nothing left to cry, but I've hung in there. By trusting, I've said a lot of prayers, and I truly do believe in God and that He's there for us, and that He wouldn't let me um, experience something that He wasn't there with me. So, but some of the rewards that we've had, some of the things we've got to experience are just amazing, and things I would never thought I would get to do. Um, some of the friendships I have, I've never thought I would have that kind of friendship before. So, um, it can be done, but it's not easy. You just have to plug it along. And one of the biggest things that I've had to learn, that I am still working on every day, is communication, because I'm so good about holding my feelings in instead of expressing how this really made me feel. And, what I really think that we need to do, or we need to talk about, or something. I need to work every day on that. But I can continue to work on that. So,
Yeah, and that's so important too, because I firmly believe, like you, that you know every day is an opportunity, and we wake up and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do good. And at the end of the day, we close out, or at least I do, with a here are the things that I want to work on tomorrow. And it may be
Right.
the same things I worked on for a week before,
Yeah.
but it's part of
But
being
that's
human.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. And I just thank God that we got to experience what we got to experience, and we made it through today.
Absolutely.
And we have another day to keep trudging on.
Okay, so here's the big final question for you. So I would love to know, as you sit here today, and you've got a lot of blessings, a lot of things to be grateful for, but I would love to know what's ringing out to you right now after, this conversation. What's the thing that you're feeling most grateful for at this moment?
There's so much, just the experiences that we've had, my family, my children, my grandchildren,
Yeah.
my great grandbaby, just all those things that I've got to experience that so many people don't have that opportunity. Um, the that I am still married, and I do love my husband very much, and I just am thankful that we get to keep working on another day. I try to appreciate everything, nature, the sunrise, the sunset, all the little things that we get to do together. I try to appreciate every bit of that. So.
Oh, that's great. So I'm going to close this out in a way different than what he normally does. So first of all, I'll say thanks for tuning in, everybody, checking this out. And as Skip always reminds you, turn those radios off and get some rest. But I would love for you, if you would close it out. There is when I call Skip's voicemail, your voice is on there. And there is something that you say at the end of that ever since I've heard you say it, I love it. And I was wondering if you would close us out today with that phrase.
Do you mean, have a great day and don't forget who gave it to you?
That's the one. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Burnout. Burnout is brought to you by the Worldwide Peer Support. You can visit Burnout Podcast at burntoutpodcast.org or visit Worldwide Peer Support at worldwidepeersupport.org. Your host for Burnt Out is Skip O. Executive producer Shawn P Neal. And produced by mypodcast.media.